Okay, let's talk werewolves, shall we? All right, guys, Tovolar is out, or he's spoiled at least, and he'll be coming soon. Let's talk about this bad boy. So yesterday, I put out a video about the best cards I think that go with Tovolar that aren't necessarily on EDH Rec, and they're not necessarily werewolves, because I figured you guys can see those. But I've still got my best picks for Tovolar and what you should be running, in my humble opinion. All right, guys, let's check it out. So we got Tovolar is a 3-drop, 3/3, 1 green, 1 red, 1 generic human werewolf. And he says whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. It says that on both sides. Additionally, on the front side, it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more wolves or werewolves, it becomes night. Then transform any number of human werewolves you control. Sweet. So this even helps us transform our old werewolves that don't necessarily have the day-night bound thing going on. So this is just a fantastic all-around commander for getting us to flip our werewolves consistently. Very good. I recommend you protect the crap out of this guy whenever he's on the field. Anyway, so on the backside, he's got a green, red, and X generic. Target wolf or werewolf you control gets X0 and gains trample until end of turn, and it's a 4/4. This guy is really cool. I really like him. But let's talk about the werewolves I believe you should be including in your deck build. So if you notice the orange icon, this is going to be for any werewolf that we're talking about today that's being released in Midnight Hunt. So just stay tuned for that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is mana. There's a few werewolves that produce mana. So whenever we need that mana to be able to generate for our bigger creatures, we can. First one up is Overlord Captive. This is a green and a generic. It's a 1/2 with Defender. Not great, but it taps for a green. Cool. It can transform for 7, but we don't really care about that. But it will, on the backside, once it flips, it will tap for double generic or colorless mana, which is cool. Okay, next up, we have Scorned Villager. This is a 1 green, 1 generic. Tap, add a green to our mana pool. It flips if nobody casts any spells last turn. Vigilance, tap, add a double green to your mana pool. It's a 2/2. It's good. Sweet. Next up, we have Conduit of Storms. It's a green and 2 generic werewolf horror. And this one's a little bit different. So whenever it attacks, add a red to your mana pool at the beginning of your next main phase. It's a 2/3. We can choose to pay 5 mana to flip it. Probably won't be flipping it that way. Whenever Conduit of Emrakul attacks, add double colorless to your mana pool at the beginning of your next main phase. So it feels like we're going to be casting stuff in our second main phase with this card, which is interesting because we're also going to be doing that with a brand new card, Kessig Naturalist. Now, this kind of attack give you mana thing puts your creatures at risk so they're not a consistent mana source, but it's still pretty cool. So a green and a red, it says whenever Kessig Naturalist attacks, add a red or a green until in a turn you don't lose this mana as steps and phases ends. Cool. It's daybound, but it's also a lord. Whenever it flips, it says other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. Whenever a Lord of Overlord attacks, get a red or a green until in its turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases ends. So this guy is kind of an all-star. He can be attacking to get us that extra mana for our next werewolf, or he can just be a Lord. He's so useful. I really love this card. Next up, let's talk about utility among werewolves. We have Outland Liberator. This is a brand new card out of Midnight Hunt. It's a green, it's a generic human werewolf. It says pay 1 generic, sacrifice Outland Liberator, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Sweet. It has the same ability on the backside to sacrifice, destroy an art or an enchantment. And it says whenever Frenzy Trapbreaker attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Would much rather be attacking with it every turn so that we can kill new artifacts and enchantments every turn. Very good card. It's one of the, I think, one of the best cards to come out of this new Midnight Hunt for werewolves. Next up, we have an oldie but a goodie, Daybreak Ranger, and flips into Nightfall Predator. This is a 3-drop 2/2. It says tap, Daybreak Ranger deals 2 damage to target creature with flying. And it flips whenever nobody casts a spell. And it says 1 red, tap, Nightfall Predator fights target creature. I want to note that this Nightfall Predator will kill 7 out of the 12 top commanders out of EDH Rec. That's important to note. So there are a lot of kill on-site commanders. This guy will deal with most of them. He dies from a couple of them. Like, for instance, Atraxa will kill him. I think there's another 4/4 on the list. But this is really good to be able to kill something that is really problematic with a creature. Next up, we want to do some more utility. Dusk Watch Recruiter. All right, 1 green, 1 generic. Human Warrior Werewolf. He's a 2/2. It's 1 green, 2 generic. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And he transforms whenever nobody casts a spell on their last turn. And it says, whenever he flips creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Heck yes. This guy is doing it all. We're going to be able to look for creatures, put them into our hand. We're going to cast our creatures for cheaper. This dude is a must include in any werewolf build. Awesome dude. All right, next up on our utility is Gaia Reach Bandit. I like this dude a lot because he's going to have haste and he's going to help you transform your werewolves. It's 1 red, 2 generic haste. Beginning of your upkeep, if no spells were cast, transform. Okay, whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield under your control, you may transform it. So you can immediately get a transformation trigger. So good. And to do it all, it's a 4/3 on its own. Sweet. Next up, it's a similar kind of thing. This one's Reckless Stormseeker. It's a 1 red, 2 generic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Sweet, daybound. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. So this is very useful. We're going to get our creatures out. They're going to go fast. They're going to go swingy swing. Awesome. For our aggro, I go all in on the aggro with regards to werewolves. And the reason why is because unlike other aggro builds, our creatures get really big and dumb. And that would be most evident with Reckless Wave. It's a 1 red, 1/1 at the beginning of your upkeep. Flip it if no spells were cast. And it's just a 3/2. So a 3/2 for 1 red is a good business. And it gets better from there. So next we have Village Messenger. It's a 1 with haste. It becomes a 2/2 with menace. Wolf-Bitten Captive is a 1/1 plus, a green and a generic Wolf-Bitten Captive gets +2/2 until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. Whenever it flips, now you can pay 4 to give it +4/4 until end of turn. This is good on a one drop creature, and it's getting all of our benefits from being a werewolf in general. Next up, this one I think is the best. It's a 1 green, 2/1. It transforms for 5, but we don't care about that. But whenever it flips, it's a 4/4 Eldrazi werewolf. And it says Sinuous Predator can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. This card's just bonkers. It's going to flip all the time. It's going to be that 4/4. It's a 4/4 for 1 mana. It's good. So now let's talk about our big damage spells. Current Outlaw is a 2 red, 1 generic, first strike, 2/2. Beginning of each upkeep, no spells were cast, transform it. Now, whenever it flips, it has double strike and can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. So it's got basically old school menace written on it. This is really, really good because we're going to be giving trample. We're going to be flipping him. Not a big deal, or flipping her rather. Not a big deal for us, and it's just going to be smacking them really hard. Next up is kind of a lord. It's Instigator Gang. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0. Flips whenever you can't have no spells cast, and it's a 5/5 trample. Whenever it flips, it says attacking creatures you control get +3/+0. This is got the most damage output of any of the spells on our list, and it's only like a 50-cent card. We're going to reduce its casting cost all over the place in this deck. If you watch my other video, you'll see how else we're reducing casting costs of these cards. And it's going to give us one of the biggest boosts to our werewolves that we can get. Next up, we have more big damage, and that is Sage of Ancient Lore. Now, this plays really, really well with Tovolar, and I'll tell you why. It's 1 green, 4 generic, human, shaman, werewolf. Sage of the Ancients, power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Oh, we're drawing cards, too. It says whenever it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Sweet. At the beginning of your upkeep, no spells are cast, transform it. Vigilance, trample, star. Power and toughness are each equal to the total number of cards in all players' hands. Wow. This is going to be like a 15-15 pretty easily. Yeah, it can. And since we're going to be drawing a bunch of cards with Tovolar to begin with, that's just good business. He's really, really good. He's going to be huge. Next up, we got our Lords. This one's probably the most lackluster, but it is pretty cool still nonetheless. It's a 3-drop 3/3. Cast no spells, flip it. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample as a 4/3. This is really good. For a 3-drop that otherwise isn't very useful to other people, it's really, really good to us. All right, cool. Now, Immerwolf, I think, is probably the best non-werewolf creature you can be playing. It's a 1 green, 1 red, 1 generic, 2/2 wolf with Intimidate. This creature can't be blocked by except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share color with it. Other wolf and werewolf creatures you control get +1/+1. Sweet. Non-human werewolves you control can't transform. Stuck in their more powerful mode. This is really, really great. However, if there is something like, say, for instance, Squatch Recruiter, you can't flip him back over to start digging for more cards. So just be careful with Wolf. It will lock you out of some of those more targeted abilities. Next up, we have Mayor of Averbrook. No surprise here that he's on our list. It's a 1 green, 1 generic. Other human creatures you control get +1/+1. And he flips if nothing was cast. Other werewolf and wolf creatures you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, put a 2/2 green wolf creature onto the battlefield. So he's going to generate stuff for you to attack with. He's going to give all your werewolves and wolves a +1/+1. Just good business. He's 2-drop. Next up, we have Huntmaster of the Fells. This guy is like a force to be reckoned with all on his own. And he's a 4-drop, 1 green, 1 red, 2 generic, 2/2. Enters the battlefield or transforms into Huntmaster of the Fells. Put a 2/2 wolf creature token on the battlefield and you gain 2 life. So when he enters or becomes Huntmaster of the Fells, he gets a 2/2 and gains 2 life. Whenever he transforms, it deals 2 damage to target target opponent, and deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature that player controls. Then 2 to the face, 2 to the creature. It's good. And so flipping him back and forth is really, really good. But he's going to start making you a small army for each time he's transforming back and forth. Now let's talk about the next one. Ulrich of the Krallen Hold. It's a 5-drop. 4/4, 1 red, 1 green, 3 generic. This is whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transformed into Ulrich, target creature gets +4/4 until end of turn. No spells are cast, transform it. Whenever this creature transforms into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. So what's interesting about this is that if you can put him into play and transform him into Ulrich the Uncontested Alpha, you can target himself with a +4/4 and then flip him with it as a 10/10 basically, and then fight some creature. So you can do, in essence, 10 damage to something. Why not? So or you can just normally do 6 points of damage. He's very, very cool. I like him a lot. I think he's kind of underrated as a whole. Next up, this one's really cool. I love this one. This is kind of like, people have called this the Grave Titan of werewolves, right? It's 2 green, 4 generic. When it enters the battlefield, create 2/2 green wolf creature tokens, which is almost exactly the same as what Grave Titan does. But whenever it flips, whenever the pack leader enters the battlefield or attacks, create 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. This is interesting. So if it's currently night on your side of the battlefield, whenever Tovolar's pack leader or Tovolar's Huntmaster enters the battlefield, it's going to be one side or the other. So if it's night, this version of Tovolar's pack leader is going to enter as the 7/7. That's why it says whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, because you can technically have Tovolar's pack leader enter the battlefield for the 6 mana. Pretty cool. Pay 2 green and 2 generic. Another target wolf or werewolf you control fights a target creature you don't control. Sweet. Start shooting their stuff. This is awesome. These are the best of the best werewolves that I see in this game right now. There's a very, very small number of werewolves in the game. I really like them all, but there's only 54 of them to be frank. I think we've got a couple more coming with the spoiler season, but I really liked building this. I hope you guys like seeing this list, and as always, see you next time. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys. Deuces. My button.